If you're looking at this team, who's going to step up and just produce a moment? It's him every time.
It's moments, though, isn't it, against Fulham? That's what it is. It's moments because I don't think there was much in it. It was one of those games.
You could still make the argument last season that they were maybe that attacker short.
Arsenal are still in the title race, so I think they've got a fantastic chance of still catching Liverpool, but it's going to be difficult.
I don't expect Everton to come away with much.
Ground lost in the Premier League, but fear not, it's the Champions League we are coming for now. I'm Talia Lazarus, and this is Inside Gooners. So joining me today to lend their Arsenal expertise are top Premier League poacher Darren Bent, Arsenal Vision podcaster Clive Palmer, and the Athletics' Charlie Eccleshare. So guys, it wasn't the best weekend for Premier League football for Arsenal. I mean, it wasn't the worst, but I mean, it's probably better that we're here today after last night's Monaco win, no?
You're looking at me?
Yeah.
Honestly, the draw against Fulham, the world seemed to end, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
It really did seem to end. And, it was a tough week. It's a tough week for a podcast, I'll tell you that. And so, yeah, it was a real tough one. And the margins were really, really small in that game. There are two different podcasts to do. The one that we actually had to do, but also the one where we scored that last-minute winner. We're talking about character, fighting back, turning around a half-time, deficit, which we haven't done for a long time. And I felt, really frustrated that we didn't quite have the energy, particularly up front in the central areas, to really take them. And they didn't do anything, from an attacking point of view. And we got maximum punishment for one half a slip, and the ball ends up in your side netting from a great shot. So, very frustrating day, considering what happened with Man City drawing, and also Liverpool sitting at home with their legs up, and we couldn't quite take advantage.
It was one of them where the game was there as well when you look at Fulham. I know we didn't play at our best, but the chances that we missed, certainly the Thomas Partey header, I completely forgot about that until I got and watched it again. I mean, he has to score that.
I know.
6-yard box, he's got to score it. But again, I know with Clive, I agree with him. It was almost like, that's it, Arsenal out the title race. Like, Arsenal didn't get beat.
Oh,
they drew.
I know people are already saying that, but we are going to move on to the Fulham game after, but let's start with the Monaco game. And yes, that is a good point. People are saying that, and I don't think it's true. But it was a semi-comfortable win last night, do you not think, Darren?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we started the game particularly well first half or second half. Certainly the second half, it was. I can understand why I made the changes. I thought they would have come sooner than they actually did, But in the end, you look at the result, it was comfortable. I never really felt like, although Monaco had a lion's share of the possession that second half, I never really felt they were going to ever hurt Arsenal. And Bolo had the chance where he puts it wide, but any clear-cut chances, I thought we looked comfortable. It was just a matter of, could we string two passes together, beat the press, and then I thought we'd get more joy. But when you look at the first half performance from Arsenal and the chances that they missed, I mean, I really, really want Gabriel Jesus to succeed because I think he's a good footballer. But for whatever reason, I mean, his last goal was in January, I think, against Forest. He just can't seem to score the goals. And I've been a centre forward in that position where you're going for a bit of a barren spell. Those chances are the worst ones. They're the ones you don't want because you've got so much time to think about it. You're thinking, do I go round him? Do I try and dink him? He needed what Saka got. The goal that Saka got, the tap-in, that's what Gabriel Jesus needed to kind of kickstart his season. But I mean, to win 3-0 in the Champions League off the back of a 5-1 against Sporting, you can't really grumble with that.
The thing is as well with Jesus, it's got so bad, I almost thought it was an improvement yesterday that at least he was getting some chances. Because he's got to the point, you saw this with someone like Shamak, where they had such a crisis of confidence, they weren't even getting shots off. They were playing so far from goal. At least for him yesterday, he was kind of involved and getting on the end of things. And I know that sounds like damning with the faintest of praise, but that's sort of where he is right now. At least he's in those positions, and surely one will go in sooner or later.
But that's the positive you have to take. Being a striker is that I used to worry if I wasn't getting the chances because you're thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? Clearly my movement isn't where it should be. But I thought Gabriel Jesus' movement was good last night. He had the first one, which was, I wouldn't say it was a chance. He tried to bend it, that kind of Thierry finish, but he didn't get enough on it. But it was the one that was the long punt, and then you just think you just go in, because I'm pretty sure if he scores one, it's like he scores again and then he gets on a run, and that's another option for Arsenal. But it's just, he would have come off that pitch thinking, oh, what if?
And it's a great assist as well. And again, I think because everything about him at the moment is he desperately needs a goal, that kind of gets overlooked. If that was a striker who is in reasonable form, you'd be saying, yeah, it's a great assist from him. But obviously all anyone's really talking about with Jesus yesterday was those missed chances.
And then obviously speaking of the goals, it was nice to actually score some from open play, rather than just being set piece FC all the time. I mean, technically, one might have been set piece, or I mean, it's kind of a debate, isn't it, really, Clive?
Yeah, it's interesting to see what Jesus does when he's playing. He drifts to the left, and although he didn't have the accuracy on his finishing, that cross was a really good cross, And I think when he's playing well, we don't mind where he goes because we look quite fluid. When we're not scoring, mate, stand between the sticks, will you? Stand between the sticks and be a centre forward. But it was nice to see us play. I didn't think Monaco were that aggressive to stop us building up. I thought Declan Rice, it was an opportunity for us to try a few things in midfield, see what the balance looks like, build play. I didn't think they were aggressive. They allowed us to get into their third too easily. And to be honest, 1-0 at half time, I don't know, I don't want to be an arrogant Arsenal fan, but it should have been 3 or 4.
Yeah, 100%.
It should have been 3 or 4.
Well, just mentioning that, Clive, what do you think then about this idea of could Jesus play on the left, given that neither of Arsenal's options on the left are in particularly great form? And, you know, Jesus did it a little bit. Remember he did it against Brighton? He won a penalty quite cleverly, looked all right. Like, given he doesn't look like he's sort of deadly in front of goal, could that be an option?
I've been on a journey with him this season. I was there for pre-season and he looks so sharp.
Yeah.
Absolutely razor. I'm doing exactly the same thing as you, Troy. I'm saying, maybe get him off the left because he could be really good there. And because we can build up there. And I think, oh, great. Then he had an injury, then he came back, then he dipped. And the Fulham game last week, he was not great, you know, when he came on. And so the option to move to the left after the Fulham game was not in my mind. He plays quite well last night in the first half, and then you start to think about the possibilities of where he could play. I think in his head, I honestly think in his head, he's happier away from the goal.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do. I think he drifts into wide areas, particularly under pressure. He likes to be there.
I mean, he made a point of even saying it.
Yeah, you are who you are when it comes down to it. When you're under pressure, you default to your default. You just do. And but at the moment, let's build him. And he did okay in that first half, yes.
Yeah.
So then Bukayo Saka so nearly had his very first hat-trick for Arsenal. He got 21 goal involvements in 21 games so far this season. I mean, that is incredible statistics. I mean, especially that we're only in December.
He's incredible. I mean, you can't speak highly enough of him. Every single game he's out there, he's durable. I mean, if you watched last night as well, by the way, they weren't only doubling up on him. Sometimes there were 3 players on him and he had no space. Certainly that first half, of course, Monaco ran out of gas, but then his intelligence to draw these players over, and that frees up Odegaard. You had Partey making the run as well. He just gets better and better. And every single game, you know what you're going to get from him. Even if he's not seeing much of the ball, you know there'll be 1 or 2 moments where it'll be defining moments where he'll score a goal, he'll create. And for me, he's world class. I mean, we've sat on this before. People have debated that every single game, and regardless of the opposition, by the way, he's not a flat track bully that just lesser teams. I'll put them to the sword. He doesn't. Champions League, EFL Cup, Premier League, every single competition Arsenal are in, he's there producing the goods, and he's getting better and better. And I think that's the scary thing.
I think as well, it's accentuated how clinical and decisive he is by the fact that the other attackers aren't really, certainly not at the moment. You know, if you're looking at this team, who's going to step up and just produce a moment? It's him every time, because even someone like Odegaard, you know, he's feeding his way back in, but he's not, I don't think at his top level, and he's not producing moments like that. Whereas, you know, and certainly it's not happening on the left. Saka, his ability to, you know, pop up with a goal out of nothing or just find a cross, you know, even in games where you don't think he's done a huge amount, he's still, you know, created a lot of chances. It's really striking in this team at the moment.
So then Arsenal stars coming through the ranks. Lewis-Skelly had his first Champions League debut last night. I mean, he looked pretty comfortable as well, didn't he?
That's interesting. He did look comfortable. When you were there, Darren, so like when you look at him, he looks like a first teamer.
Yeah.
He's grown in the right way. He looks comfortable. He's going to the ball. And what he does really well is he throws his leg in front of the ball to protect it. And so when he's doing that at 18, just imagine when he has that physical confidence as an adult, how he's going to be. And people say it, and he does really remind me of Spurs' Dembele. He really does. The way he would bring people in, protect the ball, and then burst out of that spot. He's got that, and I think I know it's obvious for an 18-year-old, but I really feel once he has that physical confidence as a man, he could go right to the top. I really feel that.
I mean, Moussa Dembele, I covered Spurs for a long time, and he has a kind of semi-mythological status. Like that is high praise. Like his ability to keep the ball, and I do know what you mean. And even for the goal, it's almost like, and I don't know if it's deliberate, I'd love to know, but it's almost like he tempts the guy to come and get it. Yeah. It's like a slightly loose touch, and it's saying, go on, try and get it, and then I'm just going to lose you. And that's an incredible talent. And he did this thing, just building on what you were saying, Clive, on how comfortable he looks. Early on, the ball was played over, and he sort of left the ball and was sort of doing that as if saying, like, don't worry. And it was like, that's sort of gesture that, like, you know, a very experienced centre-back is going to do, basically telling everyone, just, you know, leave it, I've got it. And you think, okay, wow, this guy really feels at home here.
You know, he needs to take confidence as well from that performance and the fact that he was picked to start ahead of Kieran Tierney. Because Kieran Tierney is an experienced international.
Which everyone thought, I think, he was going to be picked.
Exactly. I know he's not played since June, but he's been on the bench the last 4 games as well. And the fact that Mikel Arteta said to you, an 18-year-old, listen, Champions League night, there you go. I think that will give him huge confidence. But not only that as well, his performances as well. He'll now feel, and rightly so, he's going to have bumps in the road. He's a young kid. He'll believe that he belongs at that level. And I think his performance last night suggests that this is only the start for him, because there would have been a few nerves there. Of course, he's only 18 years old playing the Champions League. The more confidence he gets in that Arteta system as well, he's only going to get better and better. And that's a scary thought, because I thought he looked outstanding last night.
So when you are picked, you know, ahead of an 18-year-old, sorry, if an 18-year-old is picked instead of you, how for Kieran Tierney is he going to feel?
You know your days are numbered. And it's as simple as that. Yeah. You know your days are numbered because, as I said, he's an experienced international, Kieran Tierney. He's had great times at Arsenal, and there was a time where a lot of people were saying he was arguably one of our most important players. But for the fact that you've been left on the bench and he's opted for a young kid, that just tells you, do you know what, I'm not going to get in front of... When Calafiori comes back, that's another body ahead of him. I think Jakub Kiwior, if he's got to play there, Zinchenko, Kieran Tierney will understand that. But that there was almost like the final nail where you go, do you know what, I think this is my time at Arsenal is coming towards an end.
Might be a rumour, but there's a guy called Tomiyasu, I think. Who, it might be a figment of my imagination. I think with Lewis-Skelly, one thing that's really interesting, though, is in a way, although the Champions League is, in some respects, the pinnacle, I think it suited him in some respects. What I think will be interesting is, you know, let's say he plays against Everton on Saturday. That's a very different challenge. You know, they're putting back post crosses in. Calvert-Lewin's probably leaning onto his side. You know, that's a big test. And because a part of me was thinking, as I'm sure everyone did, it was like, could he not have played against Fulham, and then Timber could have played on the right, and then that would have freed up that right-hand side a little bit? But I do think that's a very different game, you know, a Premier League game, especially that was an away game. But he seems like the kind of guy who's just going to sort of tick off those challenges. It'll be interesting to see.
I just want to say, covers Spurs, played for Spurs. Sometimes I feel like this room should be blue and white.
Let's hope not.
It's not going to be, but like sometimes I feel like it's like a multiverse and it should be. Anyway, so there was a mad few minutes of Martinelli who could have been sent off last night. We know that Howard Webb would have been straight on the phone to VAR if this was a Premier League game. I mean, we would have all seen it. Common sense seems to prevail in Europe, though, do we think?
I'm torn on that one, you know, because sometimes you see European referees are quite quickly to brandish the yellow card. But in that situation there, I was surprised he came out for the second half because he got booked. He then gave that foul away, which was similar to the one he actually got booked for, where they're breaking and he brings him down, maybe not as cynically as he did the first one. And then the one where they're penned in their own half and then they're trying to get out and he makes another foul. I just thought, and that was just before half time, I just wondered if Arteta was going to go, do you know what, I'm not going to run the risky with that.
Yeah, I thought exactly the same. And when he made a foul, because we're so tuned in to not get the benefit of the doubt, there was like a hush around the ground. And I thought, oh no, here we go again. I just want to get through this game, because whether I'm right or wrong, I'm always looking almost to the next game because the schedule's so relentless. I'm thinking, can we just get the goals? We can get people off the pitch so I can get ready for Everton. And he shouldn't be thinking that way. But Martinelli, I thought, don't do this, because now we have to work much harder with 10 men. So, but he was trusted and he came out and did fine for 15 minutes, right? So no problem.
I mean, yeah, it shouldn't be, not every foul has to be a yellow, but obviously once a player's on a yellow, everyone's senses are heightened. I mean, in fairness to the Premier League, do you remember there was that Calafiori one against Leicester where he was on a booking and he actually could have got a second? Again, I don't think it was necessarily. But yeah, I mean, I think everyone was fearing the worst. I think one thing with the Champions League, the way it's officiated, there is something more decisive about the officials. It feels a little bit, and I don't know if that's partly because VAR is a bit more interventionist in the Premier League, where in the Premier League it feels like a decision is sort of the starting point for negotiations. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not the final call. It's like, okay, right, let's begin from here. Whereas in the Champions League, the bar feels so high to overturn that a referee makes a decision. I think people accept it a little bit more, even if whether it's right or wrong.
So now we've done the 3-0 home chat win, which is obviously wonderful. And let's get to the nitty-gritty Fulham on Sunday game. Guys, what went wrong? Because we were on a run as well. What went wrong?
I don't know, actually. I think at the start of the game, I'm thinking Fulham's a hard place for us. We just don't do well there. So we started off the game really, really well. I'm thinking, oh, great, we're going to be fine today. And literally the first thing they did, which was a great goal, really knocked us back, knocked me back. And I think we were a little bit sort of punch drunk till half time. Then came out really aggressively and got our goal. But we just didn't quite have enough to get the second goal. And it sort of, there's been lots of talk around do we need a striker. That's what tends to happen. When you don't do so well, you tend to think what's missing. You really go there aggressively in your mind, particularly when you're dropping points at its critical time. And then we score goals last night, and that feeling is still there. Do we need a striker still? And I think you just take a 10,000-foot view. You got ourselves a question: do we have enough firepower to do what we want to do? And so we're back to Gabriel Jesus again. We need to refine him. We really do, because these things are they're gonna cost us if we don't, and they cost us on Sunday. So it was a tough day. It really was a tough day. I just was so devastated that last goal got taken out.
It's moments, though, isn't it, against Fulham? That's what it is. It's moments, because I don't think there was much in it. It was one of those games where you're thinking, oh, come on, Arsenal. Once they got the equaliser, I thought there was only one team that was going to go on and win it. But as you said there, when Thomas Partey misses the header, I mean, there's no way you should... It's not even so much that he misses it's the target. From there, you can't miss the target from there.
I know.
That was the one, but then the goal at the end, it almost because I jumped up, and do you know what's funny? I sent my friend a message to go, yes! And when I deleted the message, because I suddenly thought, do you know what? Hold on. I think I know what's going on there, but these are just moments, I think, for Arsenal. I wouldn't say it was the worst performance, but I think it was an overreaction after the game from everyone else, not Arsenal fans, going, that's it, they're out of the title race. And as you said, Fulham's a tough place to go. They'll give anyone a game, but it just so happens that Arsenal couldn't get all 3 points. And yes, a centre forward would be nice, someone who we know can guarantee you goals, but that's not always the case. And also, they're so hard to find, and you've got to find the right one. So rather than Arsenal scratching around for someone and saying, right, we'll just try and get anyone because their numbers look good, if we've got to bide our time and wait for the right one to become available, then that's what we're going to have to do. And I think Arsenal have got enough firepower in the squad to be able to cope until such a time. It's
sometimes so hard because we celebrate goals, whether you're at home, or you're in the stadium, wherever you are watching it, you celebrate a goal. And there's tense feelings still where some people don't even celebrate, and they're like, just wait. Just wait.
I mean, what was weird about that goal was that because of the nature of the offside, because obviously Martinelli steps back and all the Fulham defenders step back, it looks by the time he receives the ball like he's clearly on, and the final pass doesn't feel, offside, onside. So it's one where even the most paranoid fans, I think, and there are plenty, let's face it, nowadays with VAR, there are a lot of goals you feel you can't celebrate. That didn't necessarily feel like one. But I'm torn on this game because I do think you have to, if that goal had been given, as Clive mentioned, then I think the narrative is sign of champions. They didn't play brilliantly. They dug it out. They won the game. Obviously, they don't. And it all completely flips to, well, they don't create enough. And, Fulham defended doggedly. But Fulham had 0.1 XG. They did nothing all game. It's a game Arsenal should have won. That all said, it's not a performance that came totally out of the blue. We've all seen Arsenal play like that. There have been quite a few games, including Fulham last season. And ultimately, the reason Arsenal didn't win the title last season was because of those games where Villa away, Newcastle away, Fulham away, where they just didn't really create a lot. And Bayern in the Champions League, where it never really looked like they were going to score. And I'm torn as well because they broke the record for how many goals they've ever scored in the Premier League last season. But at the same time, you then think, there were a few that, those 6-0s, 5-0s, 6-0. Not that those are all valuable goals, but you could still make the argument last season that they were maybe that attacker short. And look, you look at what Arteta tried to do. He tried to bring in Rafinha 2 years ago, didn't get him. Tried to bring in Mudryk. Sure, they got Trossard instead. Tried to bring in Sesko, Vlahovic. It's not like they haven't attempted. They know that they're probably one player short and ended up with Sterling this year pretty much as just a body, but it was an acknowledgement that they are short in that area. So I do think it's legitimate to question maybe whether they're one player, whether it's a striker, whether it's a more explosive left winger, so it's not all coming from Saka's side.
Yeah.
And I think Fulham just brought out all of those sort of simmering feelings that a lot of fans had, all sort of came to the boil.
And speaking of the disallowed Saka goal, Martinelli has been thrown a lot of blame. Do you think he was to blame?
Yeah. And I'd love to be able to defend him, but being in that position before, you can't be offside in that scenario, because usually players that will try and cheat a little bit are the ones that are not that quick. So if it was like a Trossard, for instance, I could kind of understand it, because he's worried if the ball goes in there that he can't use his pace. But when you're in that position, you're looking right across the line, you have to stay on side. I mean, the cross is beautiful to Saka. I mean, what a cross that is. But in that scenario, give yourself a yard just to be on the safe side, because VAR is a real thing. In my day, when I was playing, you can get away with it in my day, because you might get the linesman might pull it up, he might miss it, you might get away with it. With VAR, you're never going to get away with it. So just give yourself a yard, and then there's no debate then. You're onside, you cross it in, we score the goal. So although I thought it was harsh, the kind of pile on Martinelli, I can kind of understand it, because again, it's moments, fine margins. He keeps himself onside. Arsenal win the game 3-0. People talking about Arsenal as not playing one title challenges. Now all of a sudden, that one little moment, it's almost like, oh, here we go again.
Oh, in my day, Darren, how old are you?
No, but do you know what I mean? I mean, I played 10 years ago, but...
What's going on in my day,
No, you know, 10 years ago, I'm 30, but VAR wasn't a thing then. You get away with it. Like, you get some you wouldn't, but nowadays, you just know full well that VAR are looking to disallow goals. I know they're saying they're not, but they're looking to disallow goals, and in that instant, it was the right decision.
Yeah, that game frustrated me. I honestly, you know what really frustrates me is we do create chances. I think if you look at it, our execution is poor. So our conversion rate is poor. We have lots of box touches. We miss the most big chances. Our conversion rate's really, really poor. And that's what's driving the striker discussion. Because we think that guy would score the goals that this guy's not scoring.
Yeah.
When it's quite simplistic. We have to be better in those moments. And I was just thinking this week, when do we get a goal out of nowhere? Remember the Calafiori shot at Man City, right? None of us knew it was coming. When's the last time we did that? You know, like really score a goal out of nowhere. We craft really high quality chances and goals, but we don't do something out of the ordinary. I think that's what we need to add to this group. Yeah.
And I think Havertz is kind of symptomatic of that. I think he's really good. He's got a lot of attributes, but if you think of a classic Kai Havertz goal, it's sort of plumb in front of goal after some really good build-up, and he kind of taps it home, which is useful. But he's not a Van Persie who's going to sort of shift it and smash one in, out of nothing. It feels like, and again, with that goal that Fulham scored, that sort of comes out of nothing. I do feel similarly that there aren't those sort of goals.
So we closed the gap, didn't we? How do we close the gap? We set pieces, don't we? That's how we close the gap. That's our out of the ordinary that we can coach into the group. So part of it, I think, is with us, of our personnel, to drive the extra quality around chance conversion. So
the title race, our favourite part. What do you think is going to happen now? Not what do you think is going to happen now, but do you think we're out of it? I don't, even though a lot of people have already started saying it since the Fulham game, but I still don't think we are. No chance. I mean, people are just getting carried away, because Liverpool at some point will have a blip. They're not going to go the whole season just beating everybody, because they've still got hard games to come. Manchester City at the minute, I understand, look, vulnerable, you'd have to say. But Chelsea are no joke. That's why I want to mention Chelsea as well, because, You have to. I mean, they're there on merit. It's not by accident that they're there. They've got two separate squads that play in two different competitions. So they don't have to worry about squad rotation. Most of their top players are fit. Arsenal are still in the title race, so I think they've got a fantastic chance of still catching Liverpool. But it's going to be difficult. You have to be honest. Yeah, well, I want to get us back to full power and fitness. We got so many people not there. There's a great article this week which said we've had 9 different back four combinations out of 15 games in the Premier League. And that instability, it will have a domino effect going forward. We're on like a conveyor belt of injuries. Yeah, and we're seeing people, we don't even know how fit they are. People looking at Miles, maybe he could have started against Fulham. Well, he had a foot infection. He wasn't quite ready for Fulham. He did 60 minutes last night in a European game where the physicality is different. And he did it and got off the pitch in time. We don't know where people are and their health and fitness, so we're selecting teams without the right level of information. For me, get them players fit so we can see them, because I think then we'll know where we are after that. I mean, remember as well, I think it's difficult to say with Liverpool, but I do think with the new manager, I can't believe they'll keep going on this sort of form, and then it's whether the chasing teams can catch them. But remember how quickly the momentum can shift. Like Arsenal 2 seasons ago, had a good lead over Man City. Once it goes, it can go very, very quickly. Like Man City now. Yeah, well, and once it went,
it almost didn't matter how big their lead was, because you just knew City were going to overhaul them, and in the end they overhauled them pretty comfortably. And I do think, it will just be really interesting to see what happens if and when Liverpool do have that blip, or maybe if they lose Salah or they lose Van Dijk, which hasn't happened yet.
And one little worry about Liverpool is I don't think they fear us in the way they feared Man City. I don't think they do. I think they're used to being at that top table. They're used to being in European Cup finals. So not a little club is going to tremble when the moment comes. And if it's not Man City chasing down, we need to be really, really excellent to make them feel that pressure. I personally feel they're a good side, and Slot has made them better, closer to their own goal. He's changed their build-up, and he's put some deep block defending in when they need it. And they're also very good at the upper end of the pitch anyway. So he's added more layers to their game. But I'm concerned, I can't be honest with you, I'm concerned that they might not fear us in the same way.
I think that's true. I don't think they will, but I remember last season they were 5 points ahead of Arsenal at the start of February and finished 7 behind. So that was a 12-point swing in a far shorter period than what we're talking about now. So, it is possible. And I always had that sense with them last season as well, that they were really being bigged up, but I did think they had flaws. And I do still think that's the case this season. But you're right that so much of it comes down to, can Arsenal get a defence that's fit or anywhere near fit? I think if that happens, then there's a chance.
Do you know, my only thing with Liverpool as well is this season, they might have conserved a bit more energy. I think under Klopp last season, it was always, 100 miles an hour, so it was tight. And that can take its toll after a while, but Arne Slot's is more patient in terms of the build-up as Clive was standing there. And they almost wait for you to come on and then hit you on. It's not back to front really quickly. So that's my only concern for Liverpool, is that maybe they've got more in the tank come, obviously, crunch time after Christmas period.
And they've earned themselves those 2 weeks off in January, basically.
Yeah.
Not to mention then the ones in February for the first knockout stage, which, they've earned that.
So then, putting Liverpool aside, what about Chelsea? Because they had a big win at Spurs on the weekend.
Yeah, they're looking quite sharp.
Some side eyes going on again.
No, they're decent. I think when you've got the luxury of having a squad like theirs, and again, the Conference League, we all expect, I'm guessing, Chelsea to win that quite comfortably.
Yeah.
When you could put out 2 separate squads for 2 competitions, and not only just 2 separate squads, one of the players that plays in the B team was one of the most expensive players on the planet at one stage, in João Felix. I mean, he plays in their B team. They've got Mudryk plays in their B team, and he cost nearly £100 million. I just think when you've got that much strength in depth, all you need is a good coach. And I think that's the thing you have to give Maresca a lot of credit for. You get a lot of players in that type of scenario that are like, what am I putting the effort in for? I'm playing in the B team. They all seem to be pulling in the same way. They all believe in what the manager's trying to get them to do. And I fear them. I really make them one of the title favourites for sure. They have to be.
Yeah, I think they lack maybe a bit of central defensive depth, and the goalkeeper, those doing well, he's not consistent normally, but everything else going forward looks really, really fresh and sharp. And fresh is the word, really. They're in Europe, but they're not. I mean, we're in Europe and we're like playing really hard games. They get a nice, easy FA Cup draw. We've got Manchester United at home.
I saw that and was like, of course that happens to us.
So the level of competition, they're literally playing once a week, as Newcastle did before they qualified for the Champions League. So they're doing very well. You got to accept it. I don't like it. You got to accept it. They have vulnerabilities. I thought we should have beaten them when we played them at their place. We didn't quite execute at the last minute again, those margins again. But at this moment in time, they feel confident, and the next run of games is quite sensible. So they're in the room. They're going to stay there.
They are. I would say on the European thing, though, I do think in the second half of the season, they'll have to take it a little bit more seriously. Once it's knockout games and the quality of opposition goes up. I think they're really good. I do think it's a bit early for them. And I think they will have a period where they just level off a bit.
I hope you're right, Charlie.
The search for Arsenal's new sporting director is still on. And this week, we've been linked with the recently sacked Dan Ashworth at Manchester United. So prior to his move to United and the widely scrutinised summer transfer window, Ashworth was regarded as one of the country's top profiles in terms of identification and squad building. So could he be the right man for Arsenal, Charlie?
Possibly. I mean, I struggle to get too excited about these kind of sporting director of football types, because they all come in to a great deal of fanfare and you're told they're the solution. The solution to me is getting the right manager in. And so I wouldn't be too worried. I think Arsenal will bring in someone who's good. And as long as you have, I saw it at Spurs so often, there was just the disconnect between you have a director of football who wants one thing, you've got a manager who wants something else. And it doesn't matter if you're the best director of football in the world or the best manager. If there isn't that synergy, you're going to struggle because you're not bringing the players that the manager wants and vice versa. So I think, to me, the most important thing is get someone who is aligned with Arteta's vision, and the rest will take care of itself. You know, and you saw this, Liverpool's example I always go back to. They got Jurgen Klopp in. That's what was decisive. And we heard so much about the great recruitment. The recruitment was great, but Andy Robertson, Wijnaldum, Sadio Mane, no one cared about those players when Liverpool signed them. They became great because they had a great manager who believed in them. If those players had gone to United in that same period, we'd be saying, what are United doing? Their recruitment's terrible, because the chances are they would have been in for the wrong manager who wouldn't really have played them. The manager's always changing. So maybe Ashworth's the guy, but yeah, I personally wouldn't be too preoccupied with it.
Emphasis on Arteta's vision, hey? What about you, Clive? What do you think?
I think when Man United got Ashworth, I thought, oh, he's really good. You know, he's done a great job at Brighton, did a great job at the FA. I thought, oh, he's really good. But he didn't work for him there. They got almost too many executives there. So he's been eaten up by that environment. And now he's free. And I look at it and people are saying that obviously Richard Garlick and him were at West Brom together. But when Richard Garlick was at West Brom, he was like a junior legal person. Now he's the CEO at Arsenal. So will that dynamics actually work? I'm not so sure. And another view I have is, what are Arsenal trying to achieve for this position? You know, what is the brief? Because for me, I'd like to see something come in that we don't have, some knowledge that we don't have. For me, Dan Ashworth, I think we know who he is and what he can bring. I would rather see someone come in and bring some experience and maybe some different view into different markets that we don't have in the building. That's the way I'd go.
What do you think?
No, listen, I agree, and with what the guys were saying. I just think with Dan Ashworth, he's done a great job, but I think expectations is always a big thing as well. And what he did at Brighton was phenomenal, but there's a difference, I think, between Brighton and Arsenal. He's gone to Manchester United, which is a bit of a mess, and it hasn't worked for him. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, with what Clive was saying, I think you need a different avenue. I mean, we've seen him do a fantastic job, but like him on people's radar, the players that he's bringing to Brighton, Arsenal wouldn't have signed those players. Yeah, they turn out to be fantastic, but Arsenal are not buying those type of players or trying to find those type of players. So, yeah, I agree as well. I think it's more about the manager than the sporting director. Yeah, I need them to communicate because I think great things can happen when they're on the same page. But I think what would you rather, an average manager and a fantastic sporting director, or a fantastic manager and an average sporting director? I think I'm going to opt for the manager over the sporting director.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you look at someone like Edu, I don't know, it's really hard to say how good someone like Edu is. I think he did a really good job. I think he's a really good manager of people. He's clearly got a charm to him. There are lots of different ways to sort of do that job, but I think it was, the reason why I think he was a success was because of the way he was able to work with Arteta. And I think when they're looking for this person, it's about kind of managing up, managing down, having that person who can kind of unite. A lot of very senior people, all of whom have big egos. So I think the personality of the person is so important as well as their kind of individual record on players.
Because it's definitely the dynamic between the two different people.
Yeah, Edu was a very personable guy, and I think he's going to be missed. I generally think he's going to be missed in the Arsenal world. And whoever comes in next, the word alignment is just in the top of my head, really. It's got to be aligned to what we're trying to achieve. If you look at Arsenal, whether you think we're good enough or not, you can look at what we're trying to do, and it's all aligned top to bottom. Everyone's heading in the same direction. If someone's to come in and try to change that direction, or not add to that direction, I think that'd be a really backward step. So the most important thing for me, align to the manager. That's key. Do they have the right relationship? If they do, that's fine by me.
Alignment is the word, when you talk to people in those roles in that world, that's always what they use, that word alignment, because it is so key. And yeah, you've seen so many clubs who don't have it.
And with that alignment, we win the Premier League, we win the Champions League. Don't roll your eyes at me.
That's not what my phone's telling me.
I'm not talking about your phone, am I? So this weekend, we take on Everton at the Emirates. So joining us now is Everton fan Rob Taylor. Welcome to Inside Gooners, Rob.
Hi, Talia. Hi, guys.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Christmas party after this, you see, so get this out of the way and get on a few beers.
Oh, 'tis the season. Everyone's enjoying themselves. So first of all, Rob, how do you feel when you found out that the Merseyside derby was cancelled on Saturday morning?
Do you know, I suppose to answer that, there's twofold actually. From an Everton perspective, I was quite disappointed. I was up in Liverpool So I live in London, but I was up for the game. I had a season ticket up there. So I travelled up on Friday afternoon, and Saturday morning it was stormy, it was windy, but it wasn't so much. I actually didn't think it would be called off. I didn't think it was that bad. But I just, Everton, I think with the way Everton play, obviously McNeil throwing corners in, I think the keeper had made the rick for Liverpool in the week. Kelleher let one go over his head, and I thought if we can play the peak Dyche ball, probably set piece FC Everton, throwing crosses in, throwing balls into the box, then and Konate obviously was missing as well, then I thought we'd have a really good chance, but it wasn't to be. So on the flip side, I took my daughter to see Santa at John Lewis, and that was really wholesome, and I wasn't in the pub at 11 o'clock. So
Exactly. So it's the season, right?
yeah.
So what do you make of the Arsenal set pieces then? Because you are no stranger to them as an Everton fan, correct?
Yeah, listen, I think, I saw the mural that you put up for the set piece coaching. And,
He deserves an OBE, by the way.
do you think? Going back a few years now, when I was growing up, Andy Hinchcliffe was Everton's left back, and he had great delivery. And I think, and this goes across any level of football, really, and Darren will be able to talk to it better than I can, but I think to be really good at set pieces, you need great delivery, which Arsenal have got. Saka, Rice, Ødegaard, great technicians who can put a great ball in. And then ultimately, you need lads who want to go and head a ball. Gabriel, Saliba, even Havertz, Thomas Partey, these lads are really good at attacking a ball and wanting to head it. Everton have some, Tarkowski is one of the best in the league for my money at winning the first contact in a set play. And I think I think your set piece coach, you can play around on the margins, make, little changes. This is where you should stand here, this run you should make here. But fundamentally, great delivery and lads who want to win a header. That's an underrated quality. Not every footballer, even if they play in the Premier League, is good in the air or wants to go and attack that ball with that, aggression that you probably need. And I think Arsenal have got aggressive centre halves and strikers who want to go get contact on that ball. Down the years, Everton have had it. Tim Cahill, Marouane Fellaini, as I mentioned, Tarkowski and Branthwaite now. So, it's more about, I would say, Arsenal set pieces about the technicians who can put great delivery and the lads who want to head it, rather than a lad who's, I'm not saying playing around on the edges, but I don't think he's having a greater impact as the lads on the pitch.
Don't be jealous that you don't have him, and we all have a shrine for him.
We don't have a set piece coach. Our set piece coach is Sean Dyche, and he'll be he wouldn't be shy in telling you that.
So Everton have a pretty dismissal record away at Arsenal. Do you think that will change on Saturday?
No.
Confident.
I always say listen, I live in London, so I'm not too far away. I don't have to schlep back 4 hours up the motorway if we get beaten like we have plenty of times before. But never let the football get in the way of the day out at the football is what I always say. And I think we'll have a great day at Arsenal on Saturday. I'll be there with my mates as usual, but I don't expect Everton to come away with much. I mean, the only way I foresee anything happening is if we we score from a set piece like we've mentioned, and then we can sit in shape. We're very good, albeit a couple of aberrations earlier in the season against Bournemouth and Aston Villa, but we have been very good over Dyche's tenure at, when we take the lead, sitting in shape and then countering to an extent, because we haven't got great pace on the counter, if I'm honest, but we sort of better sitting in shape and grinding out 1-0s. And I think if Everton can score, I mean, this is the blueprint I'm sure Dyche has set up. Everton score from a set piece, just either side of half time, and then sit in shape, and then maybe you get whispers downfield. Liverpool are beating Fulham 3-0. The Emirates gets nervous, and that will play to Everton's strength. But fundamentally, I mean, Saka could absolutely rinse us in the first 10 minutes with 2-0 down after 30, and there's no way back. So, and that's probably more likely to happen than the former scenario I painted.
Rob, where do you stand on Sean Dyche? Because I know quite a few Everton fans, and they're saying that with the players that you've got, you should be playing a better brand of football. Where do you stand on that? Yeah,
I agree. I mean, well, do you know what? Sometimes I agree, and then sometimes I watch them and think, bloody hell, they're awful. I mean, good job that game was postponed last week, because I think Takore would have lost the ball 3 times just to the wind, because technically, you've got great technicians. We don't. Njai's a lovely footballer, actually, but apart from, and McNeil can put a great delivery in, but aside from that, they can't string 3 passes together. Now, can they not string 3 passes together because they can't play under pressure? So they can't, again, it's like Darren, but we used to have Arteta and Pienaar back, what we talking about 15 years ago. They would take the ball in tight spaces. They wouldn't panic under pressure. and they wouldn't just kick it out to play. Now, we don't have that anymore. We get lads, Decore, Garner Gay, the left back, Mikalenko, they're no good under pressure. And so if you press us, they go bang, and it's just straight up to Calvert-Lewin, who has to feed off scraps, and invariably it just comes back. Now, can Dyche do better with the players he's got? Probably. I think I always say to him, in the game, Everton feel very cuffy. There's no deliberate attacking plays that I ever see. It's very, it's either set piece. We are set piece FC. I know you're similar, but you score goals in other ways. We don't. We haven't scored a goal that's not from a set piece in nearly 2 months. That's where we're at with Everton. So should he be able to coach this team better? I think personally he should. His argument would be these players are no good, and I haven't. There is some credit to that, because I haven't seen these lads play well enough for us to suggest that we should open up. I think we opened up a little bit at Old Trafford the other week. You saw what happened. Tarkowski and Branthwaite, who are superb defenders, but not great ball play. I mean, actually, Branthwaite is much better than Tarkowski, but they opened up and we got caught and got done. And so tomorrow, do not expect to see Everton open up at all. It'll be the Burnley. This is what Everton are now. We're Burnley from 2016 to 2019 when Dyche was there. We're tough. We're resilient on our better days. And on our bad days, you can roll up as 5-0.
Clive, do you have a question?
I was going to ask about Jarrad Branthwaite, actually, because there's a lot of press around him in the summer, and maybe he was going to move on, and he came into the team, and I just wondered where he is now and how people view him at Everton and what his future looks like.
Yeah, Clive, I mean, the fans love him. He's the best centre-back at the club. Him and Tarkowski formed a very good partnership last year. Then when Michael Keane came into the team at the start of this year, Keane individually did well, but the partnership with Tarkowski let us down. And Branthwaite came back for a Crystal Palace game whereby he was absolutely superb. And we won 2-1. And then he picked up another niggle, and then he dropped back out. And it's been one of them seasons for him. So I don't know, he missed a bit of pre-season because he went away with England and he got injured. He had surgery. So again, Darren Bent will tell you, if you miss your pre-season, you're playing catch-up then. The way FFP is now, Everton won't have bundles of cash to spend. It will be sell to buy still, and Branthwaite's one of our most saleable assets, and we're going to lose Calvert-Lewin, it looks like, on a free, so there's no money coming in from him. So Branthwaite, if we can get him up to speed, I think Everton will be looking to exit Branthwaite for 60 to 80 million in the summer, hopefully toward the higher end of that scale. But he's a top player. I fully expect him to go to a top team and do really well. He's only young, 22 years of age. And yeah, he's got a really great future ahead of him. I just think injuries are sort of curtailed what could have been a really good season for him this year.
Rob, I was wondering, I remember Everton beat Arsenal a couple of seasons ago at Goodison, and on that occasion they'd had a couple of weeks off, so I think they didn't play in the FA Cup. And so I'm just thinking this time they'd have had, 10 days off or something?
Yeah.
How much that might help, because on that day they certainly looked like they'd just been working away, getting, they looked so well drilled, and so I wondered if you think that might come into it again on Saturday.
So, I mean, I was thinking about this coming up on the train into work today. Yeah, is the honest answer. If Everton are going to do something, that is what, the 1%, maybe a bit more, that's in our favour. Arsenal played last night. Everton have had a rest. It gives players like Branthwaite and Tarkowski, who've carried niggles all season, time to get fit. Armando Broja, who we've got on loan, you might not remember, but from Chelsea. He came on against Wolves for 10 minutes at the end and looked really sharp. So, if Dyche can come up with a plan over this time where we've had a proper run into this game, it can only help Everton. Will it help to the extent whereby all of a sudden Everton are going to outplay or outfootball Arsenal? And, Everton need Arsenal to have a bad day. Saka, Ødegaard, Rice, all the players to have really put off days, score first, and a lot of luck, and Pickford to have a great game. All that and the 10 days rest, and then we might get a result. That's where I'm at with Everton. I think the 10 days rest is great, but I still wouldn't be putting Everton on my betting slip because they've had it.
Might get a result. Well, you can end it on that then, can't you? So thank you very much, Rob, and good luck for the rest of the season, especially those 2 Merseyside derbies.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
So Arsenal kind of need to get back on the horse with the Premier League wins now.
Yeah, I'd say so. Hopefully that result midweek against Monaco will give them a lot of confidence. Everton have come off the back of a good result as well, 4-0 as well. But Arsenal have got to believe. I mean, there's always going to be jeopardy because it's the Premier League and there are no bad sides in the Premier League. But Arsenal, with the quality that they've got, should be looking to get past Everton relatively comfortably.
What are you smirking about?
Well, I was confident, right? But now I'm thinking about
Well, listening to him.
I'm thinking about the 10 days rest. I'm thinking about Jarrad Branthwaite striding through the midfield.
Maybe we shouldn't bring people on. What?
Every sort of doomsday scenario is going to my mind. And, but yeah, we normally do fine against Everton, but they have had time to think about this, and we have had 2 games in the same period, so it will be interesting. But we did get people off the pitch against Monaco, so hopefully we'll be in good shape for the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the game last season was actually pretty close. Remember the final day, they did go 1-0 up from a set piece and Arsenal equalised quickly, but then it was a struggle to get the second, didn't come until late in the second half. I think what might help Arsenal is that they were able to rotate a couple of players yesterday, and we've talked about this. That is something Arteta maybe hasn't always done brilliantly, but the fact that Timber didn't start, Havertz didn't start, that might help. The reality is there's just no margin for error. The start they've made, they just have to win all these games.
So we know how Everton are going to come and play. Is there any concern about playing another deep block?
Well, not really. That's why I think maybe Havertz didn't start last night, because I think against deep blocks, I think he's quite effective. I thought when he came on, I thought he gave us direction immediately. I think he's a very interesting player, and he offers us something that we just don't have. So yeah, I think we're going to rotate Trossard maybe on the left-hand side, and Saka, touch wood, just seems to be incredible. It is. He's just a machine, and just he almost rests during games. If you watch him, he does the business, but then he has moments where he just sort of looking at the game, resting, standing there, looking after his legs, walking slowly. You think he's a clever lad. He really is clever. So yeah, what we do in midfield will be interesting because Marino played quite well and Rice played deeper. It all comes back to Calafiori, Gabriel. Are we going to see one of them to make an appearance? If we do, this is the game against a physical Everton team. This is the game.
So Gabriel, Calafiori, who? Which one?
I don't mind which one.
Either?
I don't mind, seriously, I don't mind one. The one that's not going to get injured again when they play. That's the one. Don't take no risks. And which we are doing better this year. We don't seem to be playing people while they're hurting, But we'll see.
But I think, as Rob mentioned, I think that first goal does feel so critical. We saw that against Fulham as well. I struggle to believe if Arsenal had gone ahead against Fulham, they wouldn't have won. As I mentioned, the 10 days thing I do think is potentially big in their favour, and especially if they go ahead and they've got something to defend, I think that could really come into it. And that's when the deep block, questions then will be asked about the deep blocks and all of that thing. So it's going to be a test, no question.
Well, I'm looking forward to another weekend of an emotional rollercoaster as an Arsenal fan. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. A huge thanks to Darren Bent, Clive Palmer and Charlie Eccleshare. We'll see you next week, and remember, trust the process.